Siamo qui con uno degli arrampicatori più forti ed ammirati in questo momento in tutto il mondo. Merito le prime salite sulla 9A+, Realization in Seus in Francia e la ormai leggendaria 80 metri 9B Jumbo Love su Clark Mountain. L'anno scorso il suo King Lines è stato presentato proprio qui al Film Festival. Oggi abbiamo il piacere di avere qui in persona il re dei King Lines, Chris Sharma. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about Jumbo Love, located in the Mojave Desert. 80 meters that you graded 9B, which probably makes it the hardest climb in the world at the moment. My question is, you've always been driven by a sense of aesthetics and your own personal progression, famous for not grading most of your first ascents. What changed? Why did you start grading your climbs?
Well, you know, I guess for a long time I didn't really have much reference for me. Like I would just go out and do my own thing. And until recently I started doing more, repeating other people's routes and kind of having more of a sense of kind of what was harder, what was easier. And also I kind of felt like because I never graded anything, everyone would kind of, insert their own assumptions. Like they would kind of grade it themselves. And so I kind of felt like, maybe that wasn't such a good thing, because really they didn't, people that have never tried the route would just start putting a grade on it. So I figured, well, maybe I should, say something to, try to clarify things better.
Did the grade thing also happen because you're basically living in Europe now? I mean, in Europe, it's all about the grade.
Well, like for me, nothing's really changed. Like for me, I just like to go climbing. I just want to find a line that's gonna, push me, and like you said, like an aesthetic line. But there is the other side of there's the other side of it. There's the side that's just about being in nature, pushing your limits. That's kind of undefinable. And then there's the side of climbing that is like a sport that people want to quantify. They need to be able to put it in a box somehow. Which, as much as I don't really like it, that part of it, you have to kind of be able to relate to both sides. So that's kind of my reason for grading things, just to kind of give people more of an idea and not be so vague.
Right, put it into perspective, the way that people can understand it. Speaking of Europe, you're particularly attracted to Mallorca, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, and Spain in general. Is it because of the way they call it psychoblock? I love that word. The deep water soloing, or are there other reasons why Spain is actually, you feel at home in that country?
Well, I went to Spain, I went to Mallorca for the first time about 6 years ago, to go deep water soloing, psychoblock. And that was the first time I ever experienced that, and it kind of totally changed my life, and it re-motivated me. I think it's really normal. Throughout your life, you go through periods where you're not so motivated on climbing, or I think it's a really normal thing. And I think I might have been going through one of those moments where I just didn't really have a clear objective. I wasn't super motivated on anything. And then when I found psychoblock, I was super inspired again to just do new lines, find new projects, and experiment with this new style of climbing, called psychoblock.
Yeah.
And then just going to Mallorca over and over again, finding espontas, and just
incredible. Espontas,
yeah. So just spending, going there 10 or 15 times, I just kind of started to feel at home there. And over the years, I've just been traveling for over 10 years, and kind of started having the feeling like I want to kind of put some roots down a little bit, not always be living out of my backpack, so not always be traveling. So. When I was trying to think about where that could be, Spain seemed like the logical place. Yeah. So.
The deep water, or the psychoblock, or deep water soloing, is it like not having the rope, the part that intrigues you or gives you the most thrill? Is that like where you see the future of rock climbing going, like ropeless?
I think for me, like psychoblock definitely captures like the total essence of what I, find like the most perfect part of climbing. Free soloing at your limit, all the free soloing that's being done, without, water below, it's super impressive because, obviously if you fall, you're going to die. But because of that, you can't really push your limits. Yeah. So everyone who's doing free soloing is usually climbing, very securely. They're doing something that they know is within their limits. They're not going to get themselves into a situation where they could fall.
Right.
And cycloblock gives you the freedom to have that same freedom of free soloing, you know, all that air below you, and you can still push your limits and go for it and fall. And yeah, so for me to find a climb like Espontas was the most perfect thing, you know, because it was, you know, something that was really at my limit, even if there was a rope involved, but yet it was rope free, and also to have the ocean involved, you know. I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, so I was always growing up in the sea, you know, always going surfing, and when I got into climbing, I was always going away from the ocean.
Right.
And when I started going deep water soloing, it just seemed like the most perfect mixture, you know, to have the ocean and the rock together. And for me, I just feel super comfortable in that environment. So, and you know, with the rock and the ocean. So, for me, it's just perfect.
I read recently that you never felt any pressure of living up to your potential, that you've never taken climbing very seriously until recently.
Until recently?
Yeah, I read that in an interview. What has changed in you?
Well, I still don't really feel any pressure. Like, I feel like, I guess maybe what I mean is I don't feel any pressure from external pressure.
Right.
You know, I've always just been doing what I've been doing and just kind of following my heart and following what motivates me and inspires me. But I think recently, in the last few years, kind of started to notice, you know, that how finite things are, you know, that, well, I'm 28 now, and, you know, there's...
Happy birthday. You just had a birthday like a week ago. So
yeah, so I mean, if I want to, you know, there's certain things, certain goals that I have, and if I want to complete those goals, you know, some of them are pretty, you know, pretty crazy goals, so...
I can imagine.
It's not like something you just want to keep putting off till, you know, who knows when, you know, like the time to act is now. You know, when I was maybe 15, 16, or 18, you know, time seemed so far off, you know, like, oh, no hurry, I can just, you know, I'll just go take 6 months and go backpacking around India. And I wasn't so focused on, you know, what my goals were. I didn't really know where I was, you know, where I wanted to be. And now I feel really settled in like climbing being my life and my lifestyle. And because of that, I feel more directed to my goals and aware of like the time to act, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of India, I believe you practice yoga and meditation, and I've always thought that yoga was like the perfect thing for climbing, you know, for who really wants to achieve incredible goals. Do you find that like gives you that extra bit of something to accomplish what you're doing?
Well, like lately, you know, I haven't been practicing so much yoga or meditation, but in the past, I spent a bunch of years studying yoga and meditation, and I think it was at a time too when I wasn't super motivated on climbing.
You weren't like focused on just the climbing.
Yeah,
you were doing
and what I notice for me, like when I go climbing, when I feel really motivated on climbing, it really gives me that one-pointed focus that meditation gives. So that's kind of my way of accessing that meditative mental state is through climbing, you know.
Your full name is Chris Om Prakash Sharma. Is that Indian? Or do you have Indian?
Yeah, Om Prakash and Sharma. They're both Indian names. Yeah. So, my mother and my father, when they married, they were studying from a yogi named Baba Haridas.
Yeah.
And he gave them a last name Sharma, and so when I was born, he gave me another name too. So.
Brilliant.
Whenever I was in India, people were always looking at me like, trying to figure out like, why you don't look Indian. Why is your last name Sharma? Because it's a really common name. It's like Smith or something in the U.S. Sharma is in India. So it's kind of curious.